Hey, what's going on, champs? I'm Aaron Deliosa. Welcome to an Immigrant's Life podcast, my podcast about immigrants and immigration and everything in between. Thank you for listening and downloading the show, and thank you for supporting my dad.
Welcome back, Immigrant Nation. Another week, another new episode. As always, every week, I want to start this episode with gratitude. And what I mean by that is I want to thank you all for your continued support, no matter how small or big it is. If it means sharing an episode online or by telling your family and friends about the podcast, and of course, subscribing to it, I really appreciate it, as you are the reason why I'm continuing this project. Now, let's talk about the episode. If you're looking for motivation to make change in your life, this episode is that. I really enjoyed this conversation with an amazing gentleman, particularly when he said life is meant to be enjoyed. Because really, what's our purpose on this beautiful God's creation if it ain't that? Also, you'll quickly learn that this episode has so much quotable quotes that will help you improve your life in the simplest yet most impactful way. Let's cut to the chase. So, without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a brand architect, a public speaker, and a warrior of Christ. His soldier boy is missing twin brother at one point, but now he's a Nigerian dreamboat. Everyone, please welcome Sele Akhigbe.
Hello.
How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I saw your account. I'm like, yo, this guy's cool. I want to talk to him.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, before we go on, if you want to tell the Immigrant Nation where they can reach you, let them know.
Okay. You can reach me on Instagram. My Instagram is AYOAKHIGBE. Once again, that's AYOAKHIGBE. Or you can just type in my name, Sele Akhigbe, SELE AKHIGBE.
Awesome. Beautiful name. I love Nigerians' name, man. They're so cool.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That's really good.
Plus, I always say you guys are like the perfect human being because you guys are beautiful and smart and powerful.
That's true. We're also, like, on the flip side, we're also highly confident. So, one thing I gotta say about my people, we're very confident, very, very confident people.
Why do you think it's that?
I think it's a natural sense of pride in Nigeria. That can be good or bad, but one thing I have noticed about Nigerians from a social standpoint, and this is whether it's Nigerians living in Nigeria or scattered across different parts of the world, is this sense of this need to succeed, this need to accomplish things, this need to display those credentials, because at the end of the day, like, Nigeria aesthetically is very beautiful, but there's natural resources that we have to fiend for versus, let's say you live in the US right now, or where I am in Seattle. I'll never have to worry about electricity. And if I ever do, just call up the landlord or call the property manager, or realistically just figure it out myself. As opposed to Nigeria, unless you have a generator, any random aspect of the day, your lights can just go off. Right. So, it's that I don't want to say it's just a different sense of hardships that you experience in Nigeria. So there's that need to always be able to succeed, make it past it. And on top of that, there's this, especially for the men, there's this sense of pride in providing. So to be able to do that, naturally, the concept is you have to be as successful as possible to be able to provide as much as possible. Because as a man down there, the worst thing you can do for yourself is not be a provider for yourself and or your family. So there's just this strong sense to succeed. And then as a result, once you succeeded, the world needs to know you succeeded.
For sure. Have you been to Nigeria?
Born there, left when I was about 2 years old. Hadn't gone back, but I've always stayed in communication with the family. So, and I always just study random politics and random socioeconomic climate out there. So it's something that I plan to do probably in a year or two. Probably go with my mom, see the country, she'll probably show me where I was born, You know, the beautiful things that she probably showed me when I was a baby, but I'm too young. I was too young to remember it. So that is something I'm looking forward to. But for now, I'm enjoying my time in the States. Traveling is expensive at this moment, so I'm going to save my money for a little bit.
For sure. So you never visited at all, like since
I
you
haven't
left?
visited since.
Wow. Why do you think it's not?
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Expensive. It's an expensive trip. And at the same time, I was in school for a while, so my parents really wanted me to focus on school. I didn't travel too much until maybe last year is when I did most of my independent traveling. Outside of that, I only traveled if my parents traveled. And we would just travel to different parts of the U.S. versus some parts of Canada. But outside of that, I haven't done much else.
Because you've been focusing on school?
I was going to school. My parents just wanted me to focus. Yeah, that's it. You know, it's an immigrant parent thing. You know, academics matter before everything else. It's like God, academics. Like
you can fail us.
Exactly. That's it. So that was the focus, and I'm not mad at it.
So you mentioned you were raised in Canada. Which part of Canada were you raised?
So when I first moved to Canada, funny enough, we were in Montreal first for a little amount of time. Then we moved to Toronto for about 2 years. Then I was in Brampton the remainder. So there's about 18 years in Brampton. And actually, that's a lie. I did not get raised in Brampton for 18 years. I was in Brampton for 12 years. And I was in Brampton for 10 years. And then for 1 year, I went to Cornwall for college. Another year, I went to Belleville for college. And then for 6 years, I was in Ottawa.
For college again, or just living?
For university for 5 years. And I stayed another year because, I was paying rent there.
For sure. Wait, Cornwall, there's a university or college in Cornwall?
Yeah, St. Lawrence College, Cornwall branch.
Okay, yeah. Because I go biking once in a while, and I remember the first time I was biking, it was just a random, out of nowhere, it just showed up. I'm like, there's a college here?
Yeah, just a random college at like the bottom of the city, and like literally the bottom, because like at the bottom of the hill. So it's like at the bottom of the city, right by the lake. It's a nice college in the summer, terrible in the winter because I don't know, that city pretty much shares the same weather patterns as Ottawa. So it gets like disastrously cold, like negative 35, negative 40 degrees Celsius in the winter. And then because it's such a small town, I can't believe I remember this. The snow plowers don't come immediately. So it was an interesting time to be there.
Why did you choose Cornwall?
So I went to Cornwall for journalism initially. I took a fifth year of high school because I had experienced 2 concussions in grade 12. And instead of going straight to university, even though I got accepted I think I applied to 2 universities, I got accepted to both of them. I wanted to just stay for an extra year, rest my head. Got a 3rd concussion in my 5th year. And all of these were just random accidents. It was just accidents. The first one was I was playing basketball and I tripped and a bunch of people fell on top of me. So my head just kept banging the floor. The second one was when I came back to school after being gone for so long for the first concussion. I sat on a bench and the bench broke and the back of my head hit a cement wall. Yeah, like it was crazy. And then the third one, I was in the back seat of a car, and when we were driving, a car hit my side of the car, and then my head bounced off the window. So I was like, "Yo,
dude,
man." I haven't got a concussion in a long time. So I remember having a conversation with my grandma. I'm like, "Yo, Grandma, I don't know what program I want to do." She was out in Nigeria. I said, well, "Grandma, I don't know what program I want to do." My auntie mentioned journalism. What do you think? And she said, "Yeah, you should go to journalism. You should pick a school that, you won't get distracted in." So I said, "Okay, sure, I'm going to do that." So I applied to Loyalist College in Belleville, and then St. Lawrence College in Cornwall. I was thinking to myself, they're both far out. One's 2.5 hours away from Toronto, one's 5 hours away from Toronto. This is good. So I chose, funny enough, St. Lawrence College. Hated it my entire time there.
Why?
I was like, this is too far. It was too far, and but it was a good time. Let me not say it was a good time. It was a learning experience, and I'm very, like, when I think back to it now, I see what I learned there. Actually, that's a lie. The moment I left, I saw what I had learned there. I just hated it so much that I didn't learn it in the moment, which was the natural things when you move away from home. Learning how to be kind of independent. I thankfully had my parents still paying for school, so at the time, so I wasn't stuck on my own. I still kind of had an allowance. I got to venture off to do things by myself, but I wasn't a big party person, so I didn't like being home out late. And Cornwall is creepy, so I wasn't trying to stay out late.
It is.
It's a really creepy town, so that was good. And it was just to go there and to stay focused. But after a year, I just hated it so much. I told myself I'm going to transfer. My mom said, "Okay, if we're going to transfer, we're going to figure it out yourself." So I figured out my transfer to Loyalist College. But I've only visited Cornwall willingly one time since I moved. So that would have been, I left 2014. So I have not visited Cornwall. I visited Cornwall one time in 2019. No, that's a lie, 2020. I haven't gone back since.
You hate it so much.
It's not nothing to do. Very, very small town. They had a paper mill there when I was there, or wooden, I don't know, some mill, and it shut down while I was in Ottawa. So a lot of the job situations were focused on that mill, and I don't know. It felt like a completely different place when I finally visited, but it's a nice town. If you like small town living, Cornwall, I would say it's a good choice. But I just didn't like it. It was I don't know. Maybe I wanted to be closer to home. I think I know it is. I wanted to be closer to home at that time. I thought it was too boring. Like I don't go out much, but I at least want something to do when I go outside. And there was like, okay, you can go drinking at the bar, and outside of that, there was nothing. So I didn't like that. But other than that, I still appreciate my time there. It was a year that really did teach me a lot. That long-winded answer to say, talk to my grandma. Said it would be a good idea to go somewhere far.
Grandma knows the best,
Yeah, that's fact.
Oh, so did you play basketball in Loyalist and Cornwall?
So I didn't play it in Cornwall. I had a knee injury, so I wanted to take that to rest. I played in Loyalist, and then the second I think it was the second or third regular season game, in the layup drills during warm-ups before the game, an elbow hit the top of my head.
Don't say concussion again.
Fourth concussion. Fourth concussion.
Holy shit.
At that point, I said, I'm done with sports. Because I thought to myself, like, playing recreationally is cool, but if I get another concussion playing like sports seriously, this may turn out a lot worse. So I just made an educated decision. I said, I'm done playing sports. Told the coach, he understood. I still play against the team, like scrimmage every once in a while when I felt like it, but that was it.
Do you still play?
Oh, I still play. I stay. What's great about the U.S. is that that I didn't find in Canada, there's gyms everywhere. So I play maybe 4 or 5 times a week now, versus when I was in Canada, especially in Ottawa, maybe I can play before class at Carleton for like 30 minutes, maybe. That's it. Here, I can drive 5 minutes one direction. I got a gym I can play at. I get drive 5 minutes in another direction. There's another gym I can play at. Like, there's so many options in Seattle in comparison to when I was living in Canada.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much there are gyms, but they're not open for you to play at.
Exactly. It was so frustrating. Or I got to pay this ridiculous fee, or I got to rent it out, or I got to book, unless I have like a private trainer or I'm part of some club. So, I'm 20 plus years old at this point. Like, I'm not hiring a trainer. Like, I just want to play basketball. Like,
yeah, exactly. Or sometimes they have like parks outdoor parks, and they have like hockey rink even in the summer. I'm like, yo, put a net, man.
Thank you. I think it's a difference in culture too, right? Canada's very liberal in the sense that like there's a lot of social programs, but sports on a mass scale isn't advertised as much as it is in the U.S. And I think it's a difference in patriotism as well, where you have the U.S. and I've always known this, but it was different now seeing it where there's patriotism on every level on a macro scale from like, this is the US, this is the American flag. And then there's patriotism on micro levels. So the specific college that you went to matters, your alma mater for your college, your high school matters. When I found out like your elementary and middle school even matter, I was like, what the heck? Like, who gives a crap? Like, we didn't care growing up back in Canada. Let me not speak for everybody, but at least in my region of Ontario and people that I had met, middle school didn't matter that much outside of like small, minute conversations. Like, oh, you went to this middle school? Like, oh, I went there. And that's kind of where it ends. You don't have the alumni for your middle school coming back, donating money. Right. So I was like, what the heck? And it's a cultural thing. It's like, because there's so much pride with your school, there's pride with your school sports. So as a result, that pride, like you had that pride when you were 10, you're 45 years old with 6-7 figure salaries, you're going to invest back into whatever the athletics was. Right. So there's this constant continuation of this push for athletics that you don't find it in Canada. And I think I don't want to say we're suffering in that sense because we don't have the population the U.S. has. Or Canada doesn't have, let me not say we, because if I say we, nobody will know if I'm referring to Canada or the U.S. But Canada doesn't have the mass population the U.S. has, where the U.S. has 10 times the population of Canada. So of course you're not going to get that. Like everything is like OD on steroids in the U.S. From food to entertainment to music to academics to politics to everything. So that's kind of like, there's a massive social difference. And I think part of that is like the patriotism, because in the US, I've noticed, like at least what is advertised, and I don't think it's been as much this way in the last, let's say, 5 years, especially with the, advent of social media. And I'm going to say the advent of the consistent usage of social media, which pretty much started like 2013, 2014, where prior to that, this is a flag, like you defend the flag. You're an American first. Where in Canada, from a social standpoint and, a cultural standpoint, you are whatever country you came from first, and then you're Canadian. But in the US, you're an American first, and then you're whatever else we say you are after. Or it's the reverse in Canada. If you're Nigerian, you're Nigerian, but you're also Canadian. And it's because Canada just prides themselves on the multiculturalism, where US is multicultural more so by nature of immigration being very easy to get into. So.
For sure. How did you end up in Seattle?
So last year, January, this would have been 2021, January. If I was to take it back a little bit further, 2019, December, I was considering moving to the States, but I didn't know if this was something that I just wanted to do to escape Canada or something I really wanted to do. Part of it is because I hate the cold. I mean, I'll be completely transparent.
Well, you're Nigerian.
Yeah, I hate the cold, man. I can't stand the cold. So afterwards, I kind of like kept that a secret for a while. And then for a year actually. And then January 2021, I decided that, hey, you know what? I feel that there's more for me in life than stay in Canada. Not to say that there aren't opportunities in Canada. I really believe that there are. I don't think everybody should move, but I do think everybody should move. I think everybody should move somewhere and explore different parts of the world. Like whether move within Canada or move outside of Canada, or move within the US or move outside of the US, or go to the UK or go to Sweden, Germany. I think everybody should experience how beautiful life is. And I really felt that. And I'm like, I really feel that there's more for me. I want to move to the US. I remember I didn't know how to tell my mom, because my mom, even though I haven't lived with my mom in almost 10 years, like I was in Ottawa for 6 to 6.5 years. Like I'm only 5-hour drive away from her. So I remember telling my mom, I wanted to tell my mom, and I was nervous to tell my mom. I know if I told my dad is like down for it. My dad has always been the one that says, travel, move, do whatever you want, explore life. My mom is more of the methodical one, like, no, plan it down. Maybe you should stay home. Your life is here. Both are very good ways to look at life. And, both come with their pros and cons. So because I was nervous in telling my mom, I already planned out how I was going to do it. So I called my mom's older sister. Called her older sister, asked for advice. I said, Nancy, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. I want to move to the U.S., but I'm only going to go to the U.S. for work. I'm not going to go to the U.S. for anything else. And I'm not going to be one of the people that just moves to the U.S. and figures it out. I was like, no, I'm going to go for work, get on a visa, and then be attached to that visa. So, okay, that's a really good plan. So she said, okay, well, talk to your mom about it. Spoke to my dad first, spoke to my sisters as well. And then I went to my mom last. So for the next while, I'm going to be applying for jobs and I'm moving to the States.
Mm.
And I got a job offer. And the jobs I wanted a job in Miami, or I wanted a job in Chicago, or I wanted a job in Dallas. And then eventually I'm like, okay, maybe Atlanta. So I'm like, okay, before I do any of that, let me visit these states before, I decide to just move my life out there. Mm. But I knew that also and this kind of sounds like for people that aren't Christian, are Christian, aren't religious, are religious, I just wanted that to give it an objective term. I really wanted to feel that attachment or feel that small voice in my heart. And like, this is where you should go. Mm. So I went to go first visit Florida. I went to Orlando. That's a lie. I went to Chicago first in the summer last year. Visited my friend of mine, actually is an attorney out there. Him and I decided at the same time that we were going to move to the US. He wrote the bar for the state of Illinois, got accepted, and was waiting a while to get a job. I actually got a job offer in Miami first before he got his in Chicago, but I turned mine down because something about it, I don't know, I didn't feel that. But he moved out to Illinois, so I went to go visit him in Illinois. And out in Chicago, he lives in like the Oak Park region. And while I was there, I'm like, this is probably the best food I've ever tasted in any place I've ever been to. But I thought about it. I'm like, I'm planning on leaving the winters of Ottawa. Why would I want to go to the winters of Chicago? So Chicago was a hell no. Then went to Orlando to just stay there for a week, check it out. And I'm like, if Orlando's like this, Miami's like 10 times worse. I don't want to move to Miami. I feel that I'm going to be very distracted. There's going to be too much to do. I don't think I need that at this age. Maybe if I was like 21, 22, and I had this endless influx of cash, then sure, I'll move to Miami. But I don't think it would be a wise decision for me. Then I flew out to Dallas for a job interview, got the job. I thought to myself I could live in Dallas, but I just felt really uncomfortable for some strange reason. I could never explain it.
Why?
And I have no idea. I just didn't feel comfortable. I'm like, even though Dallas was my gold mine choice, I still want to move to Dallas at some point. But in that moment, I didn't feel comfortable with the job offer. And I remember delaying it for about a week. They gave me the letter and I was going to make good money, but I just didn't feel comfortable. So I eventually declined it. And then my family took a trip down to Atlanta for a wedding anniversary. Was it a wedding anniversary? I think it was a birthday event for for my mom's pastor. My mom's pastor. We went down to Atlanta, and I was in Atlanta. And I don't like Atlanta. I didn't like Atlanta prior to that. And I was there. I'm like, maybe I'll like Atlanta. So I started applying for jobs there. Got accepted for a remote position, and I would have to move to Atlanta. And I just didn't feel comfortable again, so I rejected that offer as well. So It's now November. I've decided in January that I was going to move to the States, and I have nothing at this point. And I remember I prayed for a while. I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm going to, because how I was thinking about it was I have this digital marketing firm that I ran. So that's what I was doing for work for about 3 years. So my mentality at the time was I want to pick a job where I'll just work for a digital marketing firm in the States so that I can still focus on my business. But this time I decided that let me change my approach and just get a job as I'm a web developer. So let me just get a job as a web developer for a non-marketing firm. Let me just work on the same website or the same products every single day so I don't run out of creativity for my own job, for my own business on the side. And even if that's the case, let me just do anything. So I ended up getting a offer from this company in Seattle. But at the time, I was just applying for jobs. I didn't actually see this company who's in Seattle. So it's now the day of I tell this story to them and they laugh every time I tell the story. It's the day of the interview. And I'm like, okay, let me freshen up, get my memory straight on what this company does. I'm looking at the job application and I'm seeing, because initially I wanted a remote position. So I would have to move to the States, but I can work remotely. And I wanted to live on the East Coast because, the clients I work with are on the East Coast. And I see it's in Seattle, Washington. And I'm like, this can't, because at the time I still didn't know American geography. So I'm thinking a city in Washington, D.C. That's what I'm thinking in my head. That's what I convinced myself. And I'm like, I'm just going to ask the interviewer exactly what it is, and then we'll see what happens. So I started the interview. The person's not there yet. They're taking a while. I had a full suit on. I just believe in being in a suit for an interview. And the shooter was late. I had no idea where they were. So I went to go change. And then I hear that she finally came to the meeting. And I rushed back. I'm like, oh, dang, I'm so sorry. I was in a suit earlier. It's like, oh, no problem. I was like, oh, am I allowed to change back? Yeah, for sure, change back. So I rushed.
You actually changed back and let her wait?
Yeah, she said no problem. So I ran, changed back, came back to the interview. I said, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. She's like, no, I'm so sorry. I was late. My apologies. I said, no, it's no problem. You know, the Canadian thing, I apologize for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, I said, so is this job in Seattle, like Seattle, Washington, like by Vancouver? And he said, yes. I said, okay, you know, I'm smiling, saying okay. In my head, I'm saying, holy crap, bro. Because I have never, funny enough, I have never said a good thing about Seattle in my life prior to moving there.
Why?
Like I bashed it. They have a crazy homelessness population. Taxes are crazy. It's so expensive to live here. And then Chaz happened in Seattle, the autonomous zone, where I always make fun of Seattle. Like, Seattle's stupid. That was my mentality. And probably within 5 minutes of that interview, when we had not talked about the job, we had not talked about Seattle, we had not talked about anything in relation to what I was going to do there, I felt exactly what I was looking for. And I told myself that if this company hires me, I'm moving to Seattle. I had never been to Seattle. I had never even been on the West Coast of my life. And I hadn't even been to Vancouver. So I'm like, if they hire me, I'm going to do it. That was on a Thursday. The following Tuesday, they hired me in November. But I had to getting my papers settled took a lot longer than I initially expected. And then I was staying with my parents they moved out of Toronto and they lived in the Niagara region. So I was staying with them in Niagara, but all of my things were in Ottawa.
Oh, bro.
So then I told them that, hey, you know, when can you start? I'm like, well, my birthday is in December 4th, and this is probably the only time. This is the first time in probably like 8 years I'm able to spend it at home. I said, oh, no problem. You can start in January. I'm like, wow, this gives me enough time to spend time with my family. So they just kept in communication with me every 2-3 days. Like I'm really grateful to God for my director. She's amazing. She kept in contact with me every 2-3 days. We got to know each other really well. So I really believe that's why we have such great chemistry at work now, because we had those like that month and a half to be able to communicate. And then January, that's a lot, 2 months to be able to communicate. And then I started January 6th. And then I moved to Seattle January 28th. And that's where I've been ever since. I love the city now. Maybe, I think 2 minutes after leaving the airport, I just looked outside and I said, this is a beautiful city. And all of the negatives that I thought about still exist, but I didn't realize how many more positives there were. And the positives are astronomical. Like we don't get extreme weather because of all the hills. Like wind doesn't just pass through the city, and extreme heat doesn't really pass through the city. It's very nature based. So my allergies were crazy when I got here initially. Like my seasonal allergies were on overdrive. Like I couldn't breathe properly. I couldn't see well. So I have to take like so much more allergy medicine than I'm used to. But the city is amazing. I'm really grateful I made this decision because I trusted that gut feeling. And I moved my entire life to literally the opposite side of the continent. Right? And I'm so grateful. Like this is an amazing, beautiful city. People love the fact that I'm from Toronto. It's like this exotic thing. It's like, oh my gosh, you're from... And you know, in the US they pronounce, because in Canada we don't pronounce like the second T's in most of our statements. So they're like Toronto. Oh, you're from Toronto? And I'm like, you know, we call it Toronto, but sure. Like, oh my gosh, Canadians are so nice. You guys are so cool. I'm like,
sure.
I guess that's whatever. Like, I'll take it.
That's funny. Do you change how you act when you're in Seattle compared to when you're in Canada?
I know. I've always stood by the mentality of I'm just gonna be myself. I knew in Ottawa, I became a slightly more reserved version of myself because, you know, Ottawa's more of a student city, you know, smaller, people know each other. I had a lot of rumors being spread about me. I'm not going to go into detail about that. Part of it, I'll blame myself for part of it. And then the other part of it, I felt it was very much overblown. So to like stay away from the negativity being said around me, because that was probably the first time in my life I ever experienced people just not liking me. And I kind of like minimized myself in a way where close friends to me would be like, no, like, you can't do that. But, the PTSD was just so much stronger in my head that I kind of minimized myself. But by the time the end of last year came, I'm like, yo, who gives a crap? People are going to talk bad about you, whether you do well or you do bad. So now that I'm in Seattle, I'm probably more of myself than ever. But with the people I've met here, they've all said I'm just different because I talk with a lot of confidence. I'll say how I feel. I try not to be rude. But because I say things very directly, sometimes people will take it. Like, some people have taken offense to things I said. Like, no, I'll just ask them, okay, what did I say that was so bad? It's like, oh, well, it sounded like you said such and such. Well, that's not what I said. I said A, you heard A, B. I just said A. Don't add meaning to what I said. And, some people will say, oh, it's about perspective and reading between the lines. I said, well, you can't respond off of what you think I said. Because if I now apply that same logic of adding my own personal perspective to a statement, then I could come to any conclusion I want. Like, I can say that because you said you like dogs, I can just come to the conclusion that, okay, you hate humans, right? Because it's my own personal perspective on what I heard you say. So if you're saying you like dogs, I'm going to just assume the only thing you mean is that you like dogs. So if I say I like, let's say, cats, then that's all I'm saying. And I'm simplifying it, obviously, but I've noticed that, it's a very rare thing that people get offended about when I say, but, in the times where people are like taking what I said out of context, I'm like, no, like, that's not what I said. Repeat what I said. And they'll repeat it. It's like, okay, where did you hear what you heard in that statement?
It's in their trauma.
Yeah. And then I also tell people, like, I'm not what you're accustomed to. Like, I'm not from Seattle. I'm not even from this country, right? So I'm very much myself. I enjoy it. It's great to be in an environment where people appreciate you for you. There's this term that I really coined. I didn't coin it, but I use it now. It's go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. A friend of mine, his name is Ryan, he told me that years ago, and it's kind of just stuck with me. And being in Seattle, I'm now in a place where people appreciate me and celebrate me, and that feels good. Versus where people are tolerating you and you can see that they don't want to be around you. So I like being in Seattle. I feel comfortable being myself here. Laugh, crack jokes all the time, play basketball. Haven't really dated much. I think dating's expensive, but I think I'm going to start soon.
Yeah. Because you're just focusing on your career, or just because you want to save money?
I'm in a new country. I've gone on some dates. Like, the girls have been great, like, sometimes, but I'm very much, for the first 3-4 months, I just wanted to settle. Now I think this time is going to go on. Weather's getting nicer. So I think now might be the time to start doing that. But I also wanted to, I don't know, career as well. I just got into acting and modeling recently. I got signed in March. Maybe
Congratulations.
That's something I should advertise. Thank you. I got signed in March to an agency, funny enough, back in Canada, Angie's AMTI. And, she's been great. And I'm looking forward to how that career path is going to be going. I'm going to do that while working full time. And then if I get like an amazing gig, I'm out of here. But I'm not looking for that right now because I really like my job. Like, I'm not willing to trade it in right now for something that could be great. Like, if it's not minimum mid 6 figures, like, role, I'm not dropping what I'm doing just so I can go do it. Like, I really, really love my job. So
That's great, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you think moving away from home makes you open to moving to different places now?
100%. Funny enough that in Seattle, of all places, I've now come to the realization that life is meant to be enjoyed. Like, everybody, like, yes, I did move from home for years, but it was always a quick drive back. It was always like a very, very quick drive back. Now I'm in Seattle. My mom, like, I came home just last week to go celebrate my graduation, as you know. That flight was so long. Like, I don't want to make this flight much again. So now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take a trip to Japan soon. I'm a massive anime nerd, so I want to go make a trip to Japan. I want to visit Sweden at some point. Sweden looks very good. This year I need to visit London. I have to visit the UK. I have to. So now moving, I want to maybe move to one more place in the US before I would think of moving to a completely different continent. But now that I've done it, and I'm not gonna lie, moving countries is way different than moving in between in around Ontario. And I've noticed that now. But I'm so much more prepared now. And it's so funny that after I moved, my younger sister was so invigorated and motivated by me moving that she actually, as of 3 weeks ago, just moved to Virginia. She did the same process I did. I advised her on the move, told her all the things that I went through, the things that I wish I had done better to make it a smoother transition. She did that. I'm very happy for her. She got a great job. So I'm in, and then I got some friends who have actually moved as well. Like, it's like when it rains, it pours. A friend of mine helped me, so now I'm helping other people, and it's been an amazing time. So I do see myself moving somewhere else in the future now that I've done this massive move.
Where are you heading? Europe?
I wanna spend a year in the UK for sure.
Why UK?
I don't know. It's small. It's small, different culture. I want to experience different cultures because life is meant to be enjoyed. And I want to enjoy myself. So if I make it big as grand, the goal, like, let me not say if I make it big. I want to be a great actor. I've always loved acting. I just, Nigerian immigrant parent, go finish school. And my parents are not gonna let me go to school for acting. So go get a degree. It's something that'll make you money. And then whatever you want to do after, do it after. Right? So, I got my job, I got my small business. I'm not even call it small business. I got my job, I got my business. So I know that I'll never have to rely on acting. So I'm happy that they instilled those values in me. But if I get like a really good role and I have enough money, I'm moving wherever the hell I want. I'm going anywhere. So if I want to spend a year in the UK, I'm spending a year in the UK because now I have the money to do it. Because, whatever, I might film for 4 or 5 months in Vancouver. And then for the next 7, I can just chill in my place in the UK.
For sure.
So I want to experience that.
Have you hired a acting coach?
So yes, I do my acting classes actually start next week.
Oh, sweet, man. You excited?
I prolonged it because I got signed in end of March and I'm only starting the classes in July. I really wanted to focus on getting settled in Seattle. I didn't want to be like, even my side business, like I only really got back to doing it 3 weeks ago. I wanted to really focus on, getting settled, doing what I need to do. Because it's a lot, like, especially with most of the people I talk to on the East Coast. So they're 3 hours, I'm 3 hours behind them. So by the time I'm done work around 4 or 5 o'clock, it's 7, 8 o'clock their time. So, finding a schedule that works for me actually was very hard. But I think I've figured it out now. So in other words, longer due date, like farther due dates, like none of the quick, like 5, 6, 7, maybe 10-day projects I used to do. Now I'm elongating it to like 14 days, 18 days, 20 days. Right, and if I happen to finish things earlier, great, but this minimizes pressure on myself.
When you moved to Seattle, you didn't have friends there, or you didn't know anyone there, right?
Didn't know anyone. My dad happened to know somebody he introduced me to, and I met some people online, like 2 people. I only knew 2 people. I met them online. I didn't know them personally. So, I went there knowing nobody. I hadn't even met my dad's friend yet. So, I met my dad's friend yet. So I knew no one in Seattle. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a crazy thing when you think about it. Like, I'm going somewhere where I know no one and know nothing. And my first maybe hour there, I went to go to a bank at a credit union. I'm like, hey, I want to get a bank card. I want to get a bank here, or a bank card here. I want to bank with. And I didn't realize that it was a 4-minute walk from my work. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So at that bank, I met this guy. His name's, he's a good friend of mine now. I love this guy. Kareem. He walked in. I walked in with this girl I knew, this black girl I knew. And the reason why I mentioned she's black is because when Kareem walks in, And I laugh at him all the time. His eyes open so wide because he's like, wow, black people. Like I can see it on his face. So I'm like at the bank teller, I'm like, yo, I just moved. I just moved to Seattle. I was like, oh, when'd you move? I said, an hour ago. And I'm like, oh, where'd you move from? Toronto. He's like, oh my gosh, like you're from Toronto. I'm from New York. And like, mind you, he's not beside me. He's on the other side of the bank, like telling that. I told my friend to go talk to him real quick. And while I get my banking details set up, and I told her that, yo, I want to go out tomorrow. Let's all go bowling or something, and let's invite him. We went bowling like 9 people deep. Like I'd meet someone on the road, and I'd be like, yo, let's go hang out, let's go do something. And like Kareem's for sure, like more than anybody's probably been my closest friend since I moved to the city. And I've just been making friends probably every week, and now got like a small little community, and people are surprised. My mom was never worried about me when it came to like my social life, because I've always been somebody that could just make friends anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't worried about that either.
Were you always been like that? Even when you were young, you were very friendly and outgoing?
Yeah, my mom said since I was a kid, I've always been like, I'll spark up a conversation with anybody. I'll be in line, just talk to random people. I'll be walking on the street. I could be by myself on the street, just talk to people. It's just what I do. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how I became like this, but it's just always been in my nature.
I admire people like that. I mean, I could talk to people, but I'm not like just randomly talk to people.
Yeah, I will be standing, and if someone beside me is standing and they look bored, I will just spark a conversation with them. And I'll talk about anything: politics, religion, sports, economics, finances, I don't know, technology, the future, the past, nostalgia, TV shows, movies. Talk about anything.
For sure. I know you're big on church. Do you go every Sunday?
So yeah, I go every Sunday. Funny enough, I landed on a Friday. On the Sunday, I was in church.
No way. How did you find the church?
So it's this pastor that I had been following. I followed him a lot more I found out about him in 2015. His name is Pastor Judah Smith. Found out about him in 2015. Watched him for a few years, then kind of fell off, and then just started watching casually. And maybe a week before I left, I was hanging out with my friend David, and he was asking me, like, "So, Sele, have you found the church to go to yet?" And I'm like, "Nah, bro, I can't find a church that I like. I was researching, I didn't find anything." And he's like, "Doesn't your guy Judah Smith live in Seattle?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So like when you're seeing all these coincidences happen, like there's no way like it's a coincidence at this point. Like I know for a fact I'm supposed to be in Seattle. And he said that, I'm like, oh, I know where I'm going now. Funny enough, his church is a 30-minute drive from my house. Or at the house at the apartment I was staying at, I actually moved apartments my second week in Seattle because it was just terrible. It was a terrible experience. And I was able to get out of my lease like really early. And it was just a terrible experience. And that first Sunday, that was a $37 Uber there and a $48 Uber back. But I didn't care. I said, and then I remember, your first time guest. I was like, oh, your first time guest. Like, oh, how, where are you from? Like, oh, from Toronto. I was like, oh, when'd you move here? Friday. And they're so shocked that within 48 hours, I'm in church. Right. To the point where my friend Kareem, we all went out. We went out on the Saturday the day before. We went bowling. We went to a comedy show, bowling, pool. We were out till like 1 a.m. And I'm like, yo, bro, I want to go home, man. Like, I'm tired. He's like, how are you so tired? It's like, because my body's still been since 4 a.m. He's like, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? I was like, oh, I'm going to church. Like, what? I like, what time? I said, 9 a.m. He's like, what? He couldn't fathom the idea that I'm out late and then I'm still planning on going to church in the morning. And then he's like, oh, have you ever been there? Because I know you just got here. I said, no, I haven't been here. He's like, yo, you want to come with me next week? He's like, sure. I said, yeah, let me check it out this week, see if I like it. And if I like it, come out next week. And I liked it, brought him out the next week. So that's how I am. I take my faith really seriously. I don't try to fake it. Like, I'm very much a human being, so I don't try to be this holier thou, like, second coming of Christ figure. So I just, I'm very realistic.
Is that from your parents?
Yeah, definitely from my parents and my own inquisitiveness. My mom, I was always somebody that asked a lot of questions. And my mom hated answering my questions. So what she did is teach me how to research. So she taught me how to research properly. So she taught me how to fact check things. And, that ended up helping me in school. I knew that, okay, I want to stick with Christianity. I feel, and everybody can have their own opinions. I feel that, Christianity is what I want to connect to and what I feel is the realest for me. And that's what I want to stick with. So I spent most of my life proving it to be right and then finding facts to back it up. And then at the end of the day, but I don't use what I know to like down other things. It's more to just gain as much knowledge as possible, because I'm somebody that I believe that if you're going to be involved in something and commit your life to it, whether it's a job, whether it's a religion, whether it's a political party, whether it's a social group, I really believe that you should be as well learned in it as possible. Like, there's no point in being halfway in, halfway out. Like, bro, if you're, let's say somebody that you just go to church because you feel like you need to like fulfill a quota, but you don't actually care, or you're Muslim and you just go to the mosque, your parents say you go to mosque, or you're Buddhist, you're never in the Hindu temple, like you don't actually follow any of the principles, just quit. Like, just go live your life and do what you want to do. Right? And that's how I feel. Like, it is so much easier. Like, just forget it altogether and just do what you want to do. Obviously, it's bad advice, but it's like, like, you're wasting your time. Like, because, like, let's say you're a Christian. Let's use Christianity as an example. And you don't really believe in any of it. But you go to church because you feel like, you kind of just have to. Just stop going to church. Like, you don't believe in it. Just go find something else you want to do and commit to that. Right? Obviously, I would love for you to be Christian, but if you're not, bro, go do something else. And I know how to separate like social arguments, Christian arguments, and I don't base like arguments or debates or conversations around the Christian foundation, only because not everybody I'm going to talk to has that Christian foundation. So I will more so speak in like a open world religion concept. Like, okay, if you're following a specific religion, it's just best, if you don't really care, just stop following it. Like, go live your life.
Yeah, I mean, don't waste. I say on the pot or on the floor. Make up your mind.
That's it.
I want to touch base. Yeah, I want to touch base with what your mom said, that you said about your mom, that she taught you how to research. I love that how she did. Like, as you know, talking about the Bible or Christ is like, teach the man to fish. I love that, man. I love that, because you know how parents are there. They just teach you how to do it, but they don't teach you how to do it better.
Yep. That's what it is. My mom's a computer engineer. So I was around computers very early. Like, I've never bought a computer in my life, by the way. I've never bought a laptop in my life. My mom always like brings them. So I learned how to use, it would have been Yahoo, AOL at the time, but I learned how to search things up and fact check them very early. And it's because my mom taught me. And from there, and I think, and obviously it can be dangerous because you can just stumble on research that can be so blasphemous, but because she taught me how to research and taught me how to fact check, because she taught me that if this is your foundation, everything you research needs to be able to prove that foundation. If it contradicts that foundation, it's either you're wrong in the actual belief that, your foundation isn't real or isn't like factually correct, or you're not researching well enough. That's how she taught me.
I love it. It's so computer like. If this is black, it means it's X. If not, it's something else. Yep.
And that's how I was taught. And there's this term that Christians use, that theologians really use. It's called hermeneutics. It's just like, in simple terms, the Bible needs to prove Bible. So the concept is, if something looks like a contradiction, it's not that there's a contradiction. It's just that you haven't researched well enough, or you're not understanding it properly, right? And I follow that. And then maybe if you stay on that course, you can do it properly, or you can use there's another literary term. It's called exegesis, and it's EXEGESIS. It's not a Christian term. It's just a term used in literature, in English and linguistics. It's literally just the interpretation of literature. So how you interpret things matters, and the method in which you interpret things matters. So exegesis is the concept for the Bible, the tool and the matter in which you interpret it is through hermeneutics. So that's how you make sure that, you know, you're always on path. And I also believe that, like, the Bible isn't the only book written in ancient Israel. Like, other books that were written at that time need to be able to, like, factually prove that what the Bible is saying is true. So somebody I research a lot of times is or the book I research a lot is I think it's called the Antioch or this guy Josephus. I can't pronounce this guy's name, but he wrote about Jesus while Jesus was alive. Right, but it's never like, he didn't write any like scripture. It's just that he was a philosopher, he was a researcher, and he wrote about things that were going on in Israel while he was there, and Jesus was alive during the same time period. So I do believe books of history should also prove the Bible. Like, if you're reading a book of history and it's completely going against the Bible or vice versa, something's wrong somewhere, and you got to figure that out. So that's just how I look at it.
Definitely. I'm pretty sure you went through hardships. Like, when you went to Ottawa, you had those rumors going around. Have there been moments that tested your faith?
100%. 100%. The concussions, the 3 concussions, not the 4th one. The 4th one is actually what strengthened my faith. Because then I'm like, yo, I remember praying. I'm like, yo, bruh. And I remember this is how I was looking up. It was November 16, 2014. I was looking up. I'm like, yo, God, life can't be this hard. life can't be this hard.
And then God said, well, have you been to Lagos?
My mom has said that, funny enough. So that's when I took my faith really seriously. But in Ottawa, if we're going to use Ottawa specifically, of course, you know, I was in school for a while. I'm like, yo, I need to graduate. Like, what the heck is going on? Like, I don't like this. This is tough. During that, especially my last 2 years of my degree, I was experiencing a lot of stomach ulcers. So it was just hard to focus, hard to be in class. I was just having a very uncomfortable time. And for sure, my faith was tested. Even in Ottawa, you know, I'm getting rumors about me because I've just never experienced it before. And because I don't think I'm not famous or anything. So it's like, why are people speaking negative about me anyway?
You don't have to go in details, but what kind of rumors was it?
I'm sleeping around with these people, and I'm like, yo, I'm not sleeping around with anybody. Like, that's impossible. I'm not sleeping around with nobody, or I've said this about this person. I'm like, bro, if I have a problem with somebody, I will just tell them myself. Like, I don't need a spokesperson. Like, I am very much a direct person. Like, I don't need any of that. So that was tough because I just hadn't experienced that before. And, you know, at the time, I'm like, yo, like, why would God bring me to Ottawa for me to experience these things? And outside, and then, you know, different family issues, the health issues was probably the biggest one, because it's like, you brought me here and I'm not even healthy enough to like do what I'm supposed to do, which is get my degree. And that was so tough for me because I'd lose so much weight. I'd be so ill. I couldn't function a lot of the time. Like stomach ulcers, like, it started off with a virus, then it upgraded to an ulcer, and I was suffering for that for years. Like it was just so bad. And then headaches came as like massive migraines, not even headaches, massive migraines come. I was experiencing like random back spasms. So it wasn't the most comfortable time there. And that's probably like where my faith is just shaken, where I'm like, yo, I'm 20. How old was I when I was 25 when I finally graduated university, funny enough. But like my contemporaries have already graduated. I'm looking at myself like, yo, like I haven't amounted to anything. I'm not even healthy enough to be able to move past all these problems. But, you know, I would call my mom, I would call my dad. Like, I'd be crying on the phone sometimes. Like, yo, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I don't see myself graduating. I don't think I'll be able to succeed. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I remember my parents, both of them would always tell me the same thing. Like, it'll pass. Trust me, it'll pass. So that going to now the graduation, like, people were like, why are you going to your graduation? It happened 2 years ago. I'm like, bro, if you knew what I went through to get that stupid degree.
I almost died, dude.
Yeah, like several times. Like, no, like that thing meant everything to me. Like getting that, because I remember when COVID happened, it happened like I graduated in May 2020. COVID happened in March. when I found out we couldn't do our convocation, I cried. Like I genuinely was just crying. I'm like, what the heck, man? Like I'm never gonna be able to celebrate my grad. I'm never gonna be able to enjoy this moment, but I got a chance to enjoy it with my close family and friends, and it was very beautiful. So my faith was shaken, but now that I look back at it, 2 years, like I guess we'll say 2.5 years ago, you know, I didn't think I was gonna finish. 2.5 years later, I'm in a different country by myself, self-sufficient, grateful to God, in an amazing environment. And what I'm realizing is one of the best cities in the U.S., you know, if you have money, because this is not a cheap city to live in. And I'm like, it's only God. At this point, like, I'm only grateful for God because it wasn't me. Because if it was up to me, I would have quit years ago. And then I would never have gotten to where I've gotten to.
That's amazing, man. You talk to your pastor almost every day or only on Sundays?
So funny enough, I have yet to meet the pastor. I've never actually met Judah Smith. I've never got a chance to meet him. I cannot wait to finally meet him. It's just because he lives in LA. Even though he started his church in Seattle, he lives in LA, so he's here about once a month. So the last 2 times he was in town, I wasn't in town.
Okay. So he's not doing the service all the time. It could be someone else.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm like, dang, I have yet to meet this guy. Like, and it wasn't until you said it just now that I realized, wait, I've never met him. I've met all the other pastors at the church. I've met all the other leaders. I have yet to meet him. So at some point, I'm not rushing it. At some point, I'll meet him. I still talk to my pastor I went to church with back in Ottawa. So I'm not worried. But now that we've had this talk, in the next 2 weeks, I have to, like, the next time he's in Seattle, I have to meet him. I'm making a concentrated, focused effort to meet him.
Take a selfie, send it to me. I want to see.
Perfect. Let's do it. Like I gotta meet him. No, there's no way I've been at this church for 5 months now. Wow, if you never mentioned that, I would never have realized it.
Hey, I'm here for you, man. Why do you like him? What's special about him compared to the other ones?
So with him, I used to do a lot of spoken word growing up. And then there was just a day where I was invited to go do this at the spoken word event. And I was having a hard time memorizing what I was going to say. So I'm like, dang, I don't know what to do. So I just went on YouTube. So that's my go-to when I don't know what to do. I'll just go on YouTube and just watch anything not related to what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Open up your mind. So
that's it. I saw a sermon. I believe the sermon was called "When God Crosses His Hands." And the only reason why I clicked on it, I'm seeing this pastor with these like big beady glasses. I'm like, what the heck is this? So I clicked it. And he speaks very poetically, but he doesn't use notes when he's talking. He just talks, but he speaks so poetically. I'm like, if this guy can do a sermon poetically off the top of his head, I can wing my poem. I can completely wing my poem. And that's exactly what I did. And that's how I do it now. Like whether I have to MC, whether I have to do, because I do with public speaking, I have to MC, if I have to give a speech, I have to do a poem, I have to preach, whatever I have to do, I'm winging it. Like I just remember what my main points are, and then I just fill in the rest.
Wow.
So his style of preaching is it's also very practical. So I like that. You can tell he's having fun when he talks. He's very authentic, very honest. And it's that authenticity I really like. He's not what I'm used to, I'll be honest. Like I'm used to like Black Pentecostal or like super African or like all that. Like a lot of yelling, a lot of jumping around, a lot of loud music, a lot of running, a lot of dancing. That's what I'm accustomed to. So he's obviously a lot different than what I'm used to. But I wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't change a thing.
Nice. Have you ever thought of being a pastor?
Yeah, it's probably going to be one at some point. I see it in God's plan. I see it in the cards.
Yeah.
Either that, or I'll be a traveling preacher for sure. And I think having natural like pastoring heart. Like I love people. Like I love people. I love checking in on people. I love taking care of people. But I think I'd probably be better suited with traveling preacher. But that's just me. God can say something totally different. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if I become a pastor at some point. And when I say past, I mean like senior past liberatures. I wouldn't be surprised if that just randomly happens at some point. But traveling preacher, I like that. Like somebody I like listening to a lot because I don't see myself like I realize that I'm not like I preach, sure, but I don't know if you know this guy Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
Jordan Peterson. I love how he does public speaking, where he will nerd the heck out, but always find a way to incorporate scripture, right? Because he understands that his audience isn't all Christian, but everybody's gonna know that he's a Christian, right? And I'm somebody that I like I don't like just one avenue of public speaking. Like I like giving lectures, I like speeches, I like TED Talk. I really want to do a TED Talk at some point. I like doing presentations. So I'm not stuck to one area. I actually like all forms. So I want to be able to have that. I want to really be able to have that freedom to do that. Something I really want to start in the future. And I'm not advertising it because I started. Like at some point in the next 2 years, I want to start something called the Speakers Coalition. That's what I've decided to call it, where I will just travel with a bunch, like 2 or 3 or 4 speakers, and we will just speak at campuses. We'll speak at conventions. We'll speak at events. And if it's something that I want to have it to have different divisions as well, so that let's say it's a event for Black people, like we can just focus on that. If it's an event for Mexicans, we can focus on that. If it's a if it's an event for Christians, not necessarily a Christian event, but an event for Christians, we can focus on that. Like I want to have that freedom to be able to do all forms of that. If it's about entertainment, music, I want that. So at some point I will do that. And it'll be a mix of male and females. And then on the side, I want to do something just strictly for men. I don't know what I'm going to call it. I'm probably going to call it M2M, or like men to men, or men for men, or something, or M squared, or M cubed. I don't know. But I really want to do something for men in the future. But I'm not advertising any of it because it's all still in the note-taking stage. Let me build myself as a speaker first. I've finally gotten back into it after like a 4-year hiatus. But I'm going to build myself back into that, and then I'll use whatever notoriety I gain to now build something else that other people can now be a part of. Other people can use that as a platform to, send out the message that they want to send, and then allow it to bless other people's lives. Like Jordan Peterson, funny enough, is just somebody that I really admire. Another one, Ben Shapiro, funny enough. People have their opinions on both of them. But I also like Andrew Schultz, the comedian. I like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I like what other speakers do I like? To some extent, I like Dwayne Wade when he speaks sometimes. Like I like listening to different pastors. Like I'm somebody that I don't like staying on one. I like listening to John Cena when he speaks. Like I watch wrestling. I don't even watch wrestling for the action anymore. I watch wrestling for how well they talk on the mic.
Yeah. Like
to really see, like, wow, imagine addressing 20,000 people, but you're not facing them. They're literally all around you. Like that's a different type of speaking and crowd control that you have to do. So I look at all forms of speaking, and I want to get involved in all forms.
That's beautiful. I'm excited for you, man. Listen, man.
Thank you.
I think we're there. But before we close out, do you have any last remarks?
Life is meant to be enjoyed.
That's beautiful, man. Anyways, thank you again, Sele. I really do appreciate for you coming on.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate that. If anybody wants to talk to me, just message me on IG. Anybody can get me an acting role or a modeling role, by all means, send it my way. I'll test it out.
You'll do.
Or if anybody wants me to speak somewhere, I'm down.
For sure. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you. Same to you, boss.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again, Sele, for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.